They gave him a lot. It was a 100% stock deal. They didn't pay him any cash. It's all just converting to equity within OpenAI. But it begs the question, Johnny Ive is a physical product guy. OpenAI does not have a physical product. What are they cooking up? $62 billion in like Q3 of last year was generated by Google just on those ads. $63 billion with a B. So Liz, what did you think when you saw that Sam Altman and Johnny Ive are getting married?
That is one of the best talent acquisitions, whether it's like real or not, but to be bought for a couple bill, like, hey, just to have the name, like that was
the picture announcement in whatever newspaper they released it in looked like an engagement photo. It was like on his shoulder with his hands. It was so funny.
I heard that there was like a whole little ad they did that was like very, played into that lovey-doveyness. I don't know. I haven't seen it. So
all right. So to catch everybody else up, OpenAI has paid $6.5 billion to acquire Johnny Ive's hardware company. I don't even know what to call it. I thought it was just an agency, but $6.5 billion seems like a really expensive agency.
Yeah.
Will you walk us through who the freak is Johnny Ive?
Okay. So he's basically famous for the iPod wheel, if I remember correctly, and hopefully someone won't grok me on that or ChatGPT me on that and it's incorrect. But basically, he's a famous Apple designer. He sort of brought Steve Jobs' ideas to life across the board. And so he's obviously done very well for himself. He's like known as the number one designer for hardware specifically. And so obviously he has a following.
Yeah, and he's British and he's well-spoken, and the way he talks about products. If you've ever watched any of the Apple releases, he was the one that would say aluminium. We've got a 4.7 touchscreen surrounded by aluminium, created from unicorn brows. Like he could say anything, and it was like mesmerizing when he would talk about stuff. So he was that designer at Apple for a long time. Left Apple, started an agency where he was essentially freelancing. To be honest, I haven't been super impressed with anything that he's done post Apple, unless I'm crazy. Has he done anything post Apple that's been noteworthy?
I haven't been too involved in looking at his career. I'm not into the design world too much, but I mean, I haven't heard anything, and I would assume that if there was anything of note, it would come before.
Okay, so Johnny Ive, probably like you just said, the best acqui-hire of all time.
Yeah,
$6.5 billion essentially to bring Johnny Ive onto OpenAI. It's about what was the number? At least a point, if not 2% of OpenAI's total value. So they gave him a lot. It was a 100% stock deal. They didn't pay him any cash. It's all just converting to equity within OpenAI. But it begs the question, Johnny Ive is a product guy, physical product guy. OpenAI does not have a physical product. What are they cooking up?
So, there's been rumors, people have been throwing out random designs of like a disc and other little objects, whether or not it's going to compete with a pendant or glasses or, whatever device. I mean, we've been seeing now Google glasses, Meta glasses, and like the evolution of devices, wearables. And so we're now at the forefront where AI is really making AR, VR, all of that a reality. So obviously it's going to be something or I shouldn't say obviously, I think it's probably going to be some kind of wearable. What kind of wearable? Or some people think it's going to be a desk object or, maybe like an Alexa type device you have in your home. I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, it's all speculation. But I think what's interesting is like last week was very clear on everybody has sort of a lane. Like each of these big guys, they were all competing neck and neck, and they're all starting to take large investments in picking their lane. And we'll get into the rest of the crowd here in a few minutes. But I think that was my biggest takeaway versus like what the form factor ends up being.
Yeah, they dropped, but there's like people are like, oh, it's in the picture. There's a picture of him with glasses on. It's got to be the glasses. And then other people have kind of taken the text. I can't remember exactly what they said, but they said something about like it would have context of everything around you and it would be portable. And so people were like, oh, it's going to be this. It looks like a little pendant potentially that you wear around your neck. The gist is nobody knows. They haven't announced it, but it's going to be something that bridges the gap between the physical space and the digital space.
Yep.
And I mean, you're seeing it now with Mark Zuckerberg wearing the Ray-Ban glasses. I don't know how well they're selling, but it seems like those are actually kind of becoming a thing. Are those augmented reality or are they?
Yeah, they are augmented reality.
Okay.
So like you will see things, and I think they have like some, if I remember correctly, some maps, some other integrations that enable you to have some kind of like metadata.
Yeah.
On their-
So anyway, so Facebook's got the glasses. There are other hardware devices, like I wear that limitless pendant. There's a Plod pendant, but it's obvious that there's going to be a wearable component to AI, and I think they're trying to figure out what that's going to be. So this is obviously a big splash from OpenAI
Yeah.
to go and bring on Johnny Ive because he's the product guy in the physical space. He's the one that's going to, take them to the promised land. What did you think about their timing of the announcement?
You mean that it was like during Google's I/O?
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah. Well,
Google released some freaking crazy stuff this week, which we'll talk about. And then nobody was talking about it. They were talking about Johnny Ive joining OpenAI. It was like masterful.
I mean, they've really won the marketing game. I mean, again, we saw the chart a couple weeks ago when I pulled up the Google Trends, and it's just, ChatGPT, that's what people search for. That's what people are using. They're not searching for Gemini. I mean, that's, close second. And yeah, but I mean, the rest of the guys don't know
Yeah.
marketing as well as
No.
Altman.
It's apparently it's Sam Altman. So anyways, we'll see. The iPhone became the portal through which everybody was able to access mobile, and we'll see what the device is that allows everybody to access AI. And I think they're hoping it's Johnny Ive who brings them there.
And let me ask you a question, because you've been wearing the pendant, and I think this is a sort of counterculture alternative investment approach, because there's, every new AI, I would say there's probably an anti-AI investment opportunity as well. And so I think the big thing that's going to come up in the next couple of years is just privacy. And obviously I would say we don't really care about privacy, even though we say we do. But I mean, I bought a bunch of Alexas and we had to turn them off in our home because it was like listening at inappropriate times and other concerns. But I mean, I think this is going to become a big theme when you're talking to someone. Maybe they're wearing glasses. You have no idea you're being recorded, or you're in a meeting and it's like someone thinks they're confiding in you, it's being recorded. And so, there are laws when you're doing a phone call and you're recording. But I'm just curious too, have you had any pushback when people find out you're wearing a pendant? Do you, communicate with that? Like, what has been that experience? Because I think this is a big thing.
I live in a single party state, so I don't have to get anybody's permission to record them.
Okay.
However, after wearing it, it's like I make sure to tell people that I'm wearing it and what it does, because it's awkward. Like people are like, what the frick is that? And if I don't tell them, they're like, oh, it's just recording our conversation. It gets weird. So I like to get ahead of it. But I've had a conversation with multiple healthcare companies. There's a particular idea that I love, which is residents or patients would wear a device that's capturing all the conversations. Why? Well, because family members want to know what's going on with mom or dad or grandma or grandpa. Did they eat today? Did they get changed today? What time was that? Did they get physical therapy? Did they get their meds taken, et cetera? So if you have a wearable device, it can summarize all of those things.
Yeah.
Spits to the family. Now the family's more informed. Mom doesn't, or grandma doesn't have to worry about taking notes when they meet with a physician. Like there's a whole host of things that are good about it. But then I'm telling this idea to multiple healthcare providers with large companies. And the question is always like, I don't want all that stuff recorded because that's going to be massive liability. If that all of a sudden becomes discoverable, and we are a very litigious society, especially with healthcare, from my perspective, right or wrong, you may not agree with this, but almost any interaction could lead to a lawsuit and a settlement of some type. I don't agree with that, but it just is what it is. That's the current environment. And so if you start recording everything now, and it's like, well, why did you say this? Oh, well, you were supposed to do this. Like we're humans, we're fallible. Like there are mistakes that we make all the time. People are very worried about the potential downside risks of recording these things. So I think to your point, we've got to figure that piece out. We've got to figure out the piece of how do we keep privacy, but also allow these tools as much access as they need in order to make our lives better. I don't currently have an answer for it.
So I'll give you a quick counterfactual on that. So I worked with law enforcement wearing body cameras, introduced them, with a bunch of agencies. And one of the biggest issues was that concern. And actually it ended up being the inverse, where liability and complaints got massively reduced, because a lot of the times people would create litigious events and then it would be he said, she said, and then it depends on, whatever. So it actually became where it got a ton of agencies out of lawsuits because people were acting in a line with the protocol. So the data might end up being reversed, but it's obviously a huge risk to test. So,
that's fascinating. Yeah. Was that just in the company you were looking at, or is that broadly speaking what happened?
No, that was broadly across the board we had a bunch of case studies around that. And that was basically our pitch, was here, wear body cameras. And now it's basically pervasive across every.
I got to find those studies because
I have them. I'll send them one over.
What? No, I'm serious, because that's like the number one concern right now. And if I can say, like, actually, it's reduced the amount of liability on these companies. Yeah, I'd have to think through that. That's fascinating. That's a really, really good data point.
There's a whole bunch of other use cases we could talk
Yeah.
about another time that are fun around that. But I think people should start thinking about both sides of that equation because it does apply in every job. And again, we're talking to SMBs who might be in trades and stuff. And again, thinking about both of those.
Hey, I don't know if you remember this, but when we started this podcast, we entered into a social contract. I would spend time, energy, and money producing this podcast, interviewing these individuals, and giving you insights into how to build, buy, start, grow your business. And you would like, subscribe, and leave me 5-star review. Now, out of that, we both get to talk to really cool people and hear really cool insights. We both get a ton of value. But I just want to help you keep your word. So would you do me a favor? Will you go leave a 5-star review for me on Apple or Spotify? It would really help. And if you want, even share this with a friend. What's interesting, I'm just thinking about this for the first time, is I wonder if there will become specialty insurance products specifically around liability associated with AI.
It's actually really interesting.
They'll probably just be added to current policies. Like, it could be a D&O policy, general liability policy, or there may be add-ons to it. That would be fascinating. That's potentially a fascinating business model. But
actually,
anyways,
there is a couple companies doing that. So I forget the name. I want to say it was Quick. I don't remember the name of it, but it was for auto insurance, and you would put it on your car. I don't think the company ended up doing well, or if they're still around. But I know that was one of their pitches was they did insurance, and then they had another sort of pricing model. So I'll have to figure out the name of that.
Well, Tesla does that in auto insurance.
Oh, okay. So there you go.
Yeah, Tesla offers auto insurance, and it's at a significantly discounted rate because they have all the information on you and your driving record and the probability of you getting into an accident. So that is happening.
Yeah. So super interesting.
What was the second one?
I want to say it's called Lemonade, and I think they're doing. I might be totally wrong on this, but they're I think doing this based on automated billing. Or okay, I might have spoke on this. I know their insurance was something cool, but anyways, yeah. To come back to that.
Okay, so that was the first piece of big news, but really the big news that it upstaged was Google I/O's event. Is it Google I/O? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Okay, so they do this every year. I'll set the stage, and then you are going to tell everybody why it's important. Everybody's been looking at Google and saying, what the freak are you doing? OpenAI is eating your lunch. You're sitting on your hands. You've got 2 billion users that use your product every single day. You're not integrating AI into your products. Everybody's chat GPTing things. They're no longer going to Google. You're fumbling the bag. We talked about the innovator's dilemma last week or the week before. So they're like trying to figure out what should they do. People are complaining about their models. I'm sure that for Sundar, their CEO, it has not been a happy time over the last 6 months trying to figure this stuff out.
Yep.
But this week, they unveiled if I was them, I would have staged it. But it was just like, here it is. Like everything that we've been working on. So what did they unveil this week?
They unveiled quite a few things. So, I think the biggest deal is that they for sure understand the writing on the wall. They have a ton of AI investments and products they're coming out with. But for me, the biggest thing was that they're shifting search to AI driven. And so what does that mean? That means that those little bubbles you start seeing up top, or not bubbles, but little summaries up top with AI results, that's going to be pushed more. They've done some tests and they're showing good strides, and they're going to be incorporating Google ads there. And so that is the big deal, at least in my mind. Of all the things they shared, it's like they have a premium service for unlimited. They have a number of products, which I think the most viral one was VO3, which is in their labs, real estate. And we can talk about that for a few minutes.
We're going to talk about VO3 for freaking sure. It's insane. But piece really quickly with the AI search, they're not rolling it out all at once, right? They're kind of staging it.
Yeah. So I don't even know, I've been trying to look for it throughout just my experience with Google and going back over there. And it's not super obvious of those updates and changes as of yet, but I'm sure they'll be popping up in the interface more.
Here's why this is a big deal. All right. You've heard of SEO, but you've also heard of pay-per-click. People pay money to be featured on the search results that Google has. And I want to say last year, $62 billion in Q3 of last year was generated by Google just on those ads. $63 billion with a B. That's freaking insanity. And still to this day, the majority of their profit comes from search because they're so dominant in search. So the question has been, what are CPMs going to be? Right? How are you going to price? Is it the same? What does it look like? And it looks like Google's finally confident enough to say, we're doing this.
Yep.
It's going to be in our AI search as well. And we're coming for everybody. With like, it's a pretty baller move.
No, absolutely. And I mean, I was happy to see that happen because I don't know. I mean, if you feel emotional about companies, I feel like they've been so set up to succeed. And I mean, people don't even know they have, I joke about it because I feel like they have 30 different interfaces with AI. And it's almost true because there's a lot of products people don't even know exist. I just wanted to sort of pop up a couple here on screen so people can see like places you can go to even check out some of the different tools that they have, because there's so much AI real estate. So here's their Firebase Studio, which is where you can basically do little apps and create apps. You've got Google AI Studio, where you can also create apps, share your screen, do interactive stuff. They have a bunch of good visual search, visual interaction. And so if you need help on something, you can share your screen and like walk you step by step. This is a really cool tool that most people don't know about.
Crap.
There's of course.
So tell me where you are again. Tell me where you are.
Okay, sorry. So right now this is aistudio.google.com. The previous one was studio.firebase.google.com. Then we have Gemini, which is gemini.google.com. And this is of course sort of their main standalone LLM. Sure. Then you've got labs.google/fx/tools/flow. And this is where you're going to see, we'll do some demos in here for VO3. Then you've got DeepMind, which we've like barely touched on, but they've done some really cool stuff with like deep tech, because this is really sort of the origination of a lot of their AI infrastructure and tools was from this company called DeepMind. So they are like for research, and if you want to go into, science and discovering new proteins and stuff, there's AlphaFold. There's AlphaFold. Then you've got Vertex AI, which is more developer tool set, but they've got some like cool features like managing prompts, a prompt gallery, a way to do fine tuning on models. But again, this is much more for, I would say, some technical folks, but there's some cool stuff in there just worth popping over.
Okay. So what do you currently use? The very first one, Studio.
Yeah. So the Studio, this one is, I've only done a couple little apps in here. To be quite frank, like, I like Lovable still the best.
Okay, so this is like a Lovable cursor replit equivalent. Okay, the next one that you had?
This one, I don't really know the comparison well for it, but this is like sharing, I would say, media. And also just when you're learning a new skill, this is a great place to go. Because again, you can share screen and say, or troubleshoot, you can share your screen and say like, hey, I'm doing this. What do I do? How do I do it?
Is this where I access VO?
No.
Okay.
Another interface.
Sorry.
This is Google's problem is like, apparently from a culture standpoint, they do this. They have these different little teams building these tools and competing. But like from a user standpoint, it's not like, it's like, where do I go?
No.
I forget.
Yeah, I know.
So, and then this is the main one. I mean, this is their main AI model. This is again, like a ChatGPT.
This is Gemini.
This is Gemini.
Okay.
And this is cool too. Like you can do coding apps here. They have this thing called a Gems Manager. I don't really use it that much, but it's like to save stuff or sort of like custom GPTs, I guess, kind of. They have sort of a unique flavor. And then their labs, apparently this is where they're going to be, labs.google.com. This is where they're relaunching a lot of their new AI experiments. So I guess this is going to be the new main hub for their releases.
Okay.
And I'm just super excited about this.
Oh, were you going to show where VO is?
Oh, VO.
Or what was the next one?
If you go to if you just search for VO3, it'll take you to DeepMind.
Bro, Google's got to get it together, man.
Exactly. Because then it's like, if you try it in Gemini, you can go try it in Gemini or try it in Flow, which is where I just was.
We've talked about MCPs.
Yeah.
And like the thing I think that is so game changing about MCPs is like, it's just one portal. You can do everything there.
Exactly.
That's where Google's got to get to. Like, I know they have a bunch of cool stuff, but they've got to get to a place where, hey, this is the portal you go to for Gemini and for coding and for VO and for like whatever else you need to use AI for. There's just one portal and it kind of whatever. The user interface doesn't change. ChatGPT does that pretty well. It can be annoying as well. But anyways, I want to go back just a little bit because I actually think like Google's founding motto was don't be evil.
Right. Yeah.
right? And honestly, and a lot of people look at Google and it's amassed a lot of power and blah, blah, blah. They've done a lot of good in the world though. And if you take a look back over time, like beyond just the search, we've Gmail, right? Email is really where email has taken off. Android, which has obviously in the United States been a competitor to Apple, but across the world, by and large, the most used operating system in the world is Android, which is what Google built. Chrome. Everybody uses the Chrome browser. I use the Chrome browser. Obviously, the advertising infrastructure, like Google figured out how to digitally advertise, how to market to people. It's gotten it so refined. I mean, Facebook has taken the baton and just taken it to a whole nother level, but Apple is really the pioneer in that space. And then the things that I'm like in awe of, check this out. DeepMind that you talked about. DeepMind was sort of the impetus for, it wasn't sort of the impetus, excuse me. It was the impetus for Sam Altman going to Elon and starting OpenAI. Because one of the founders of Google had said, oh, well, it's just going to be the evolution of the species and humans aren't going to be around anymore. AI's here. And Elon was like, we can't have that. We must build something better. And so he goes to Sam Altman and they start this company. But they've been developing this stuff within DeepMind for a really long time. And they've developed a lot of cool things within DeepMind. One of the offshoots of Google is this company called Verily. And what they're really focused on, which I think is really cool, are the like healthcare and life sciences. So they're looking at biosciences in particular, which there's so much potential in those sciences to use artificial intelligence to help us find drugs that cure cancer, that cure autoimmune diseases, other diseases that obviously are currently incurable. And then the biggest one, which is like really popular right now, is Waymo.
Yep.
People wrote Waymo, like they invested in Waymo for a really long time. Everybody thought it was stupid. And now it looks like Waymo's going to win because they decided to go with LiDAR instead of cameras. So the reason I bring all that stuff up is because Google's been in a position of power and they've made so much money that they've been able to invest in all these other things and incubate all these other ideas. I think they've been a net good around the world. And they will continue to be a check against OpenAI. Not that I'm not saying OpenAI is bad. I just think competition is good. And there needs to be somebody else who is not owning the AI space moving forward. So that's my diatribe. What do you think?
No, I mean, I think you're spot on. And I mean, it's funny because like each of those companies, even those product suites you just mentioned, each individually are massive companies and even in of themselves. But, you know, as we've talked about and touched on, it's just that their search and their ads, it's such a big business. And so, you know, it's like sad because like you're not yet seeing the fruits, even in their stock price, even though it popped last week, to where I think it's going to end up. But I mean, Waymo, I'm in a test market for Waymo and in the Phoenix metro area. And I play with a game with my kids rather than sort of punch buggy. We play, you know, spot the self-driving car. And it went from like being a rare thing to now it's like we see multiple of them a day, both directions, you know, drop off and pick up. And so people I don't think realize how big it's going to be and how much it is. It's really
transformational.
Yeah. And I mean,
it'll be transformational.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, the other interesting thing with Google is like they've just been in such a good position because it's like they have all the data. They have all of our data. They have our personalization data, what we search, YouTube. That's basically what people say, you know, people have trained on. And I think their new product, VO, I think that's what they trained on from what I hear. So
tell us about VO.
Yeah. All right. So let me pop over because let me not just tell you about it. Let's show you.
Okay. While she's pulling that up, I cannot believe that if you haven't seen this yet, which if you're not on Twitter, you probably haven't seen it yet. These videos are insane. You cannot tell the difference.
I thought I'd pull up some demos of what other people have done. And of course, the memes are always what guards it. So these were, you know, just some examples.
Are you serious right now? I can't believe you! You are unbelievable.
Okay. So that's
my gosh. So this is the meme of the guy who's walking with his girlfriend. They're holding hands. And then he turns around to look at another girl who walks by and he's like making a face, I think. It's a really famous meme. This is now VO making it into a video. And so that's what we just watched was, oh, this one's crazy. All right. So what we're looking at are people at a car show talking about the cars. I don't know exactly what they're saying, but this is a woman being interviewed. Her husband's holding a child behind her. This is all fake. It's all AI generated and it looks exceptional. It looks exceptional as they've solved the mouth is moving and they're saying the words that their lips are saying. The lips are not totally off. It doesn't look overdubbed.
When I made that comment, I wasn't saying all kobolds are bad and stinky, just the ones from Goblin Town.
And it's true. It's true.
Okay. So anything on your mind in particular? Otherwise, I'll prompt something on.
No, I just say two podcasters discussing remotely how AI is going to change the world. I don't know.
Right. So it was very simple, just one line, so nothing specific. And obviously you can get more creative with your prompts, but it is now generating, and it's generating two different options. So hopefully we won't take too long. Sometimes this can take a minute.
Yeah. So you're in VO or are you in Flow? Like which one do you go to?
Yeah. So you have to just go, if you just search it, basically it takes you over to Labs, and then you create with Flow. So I think they're trying to push you over to labs.google and then Flow. I would just Google it and pop over. Let me Google that for you. You can do it from Gemini too. So we'll do a different prompt. Let's do realistic. Okay, so I'm doing photorealistic balloon animals discussing top AI news from today. So we'll see from video that's in Gemini. So we'll just compare so we can see. Okay, so I mean, these dudes look real.
Oh my gosh.
So I don't know if you'll be able to hear this or not. Well, let me play it. Okay, it's not making any sound. So
it's two men. They're having a conversation. They've got their podcast mics next to them. There's a split screen. AI World is the name of the podcast. There's even a QR code on it. Holy crap. How long is the clip?
The clips are only about 8 seconds, I believe. Like, yeah.
So is Google giving away like a free amount of clips and then you've got to like upgrade in order to get more?
Yes. So it's like 6 of them. And then, I mean, it is a little bit expensive to upgrade. Let's just double check the pricing so I don't get it off. Low pricing. I think it was like, but again, if, compared to pricing, all right.
If you haven't seen this yet, it literally looks better than any CGI you will ever see in any Hollywood film.
Yeah.
It looks real. I don't know how Hollywood will incorporate this. There has to be a way that they'll incorporate it. But since I've been a kid, you've always known from Toy Story on, oh, this is CGI.
Right.
It's gotten really good over the last few years. And so there's some things that you can't quite tell. This is indistinguishable. Or at least until you double click into it and take a look and you're like, oh, the lighting's a little off. He's got 6 fingers. Maybe that stuff shows off. It's pretty incredible. All right. So $125 a year.
Yeah. Then this is their starting price. It's going to go up to $250. Sorry, it's per month. It's not per year. So it is expensive. It's expensive. But again, compared to your budget, if you would ever have to hire anyone for production, for video editing, I mean, it's a steal when you compare it to that. I mean, again, like all of these prices for these things, you have to compare it to hiring real people to do this stuff. Yeah, it's not cheap. But again, like right now, if you want to go create ads for your business, whether you want to do this for other people, I mean, we're just going to see an explosion.
My question, is it good enough yet? Like, could I upload a video of myself and say, hey, put me in a video talking about X, Y, and Z? Or is it like ChatGPT where it spits out something, it's not great, and then it's like, well, edit this part of it, and then it edits a bunch of other things? You know what I mean? Like, is it production grade yet?
Yes-ish. Like, again, yes. Start getting to know it well and start knowing like prompting. Because you still have to figure out sort of styles and what you want to communicate, and you have to do frame by frame. So from what I've sort of gathered, the persistence from one frame to the next is not perfect yet. But again, it is orders of magnitude beyond anything that's been in existence. And I think you can create real ads. I mean, we saw some of those examples that were stitched together images and frames. So if you can think through a story that's not as much of an issue, absolutely. And so you can also build from a frame. So if you do have an image, frames to video. So if you have
that's insane.
Yeah.
And what she means by a frame is like you take a picture.
Exactly.
And then you take it from there and say, hey, build this out.
So I don't have a good picture of you on hand yet.
That's okay.
Maybe
No.
Do some of those.
That's fine. They also introduced some AI powered smart glasses, correct?
Yeah, I'm not as familiar on the details of that, but everybody's coming out with devices.
Here's my question. All right. How much was the pricing a month for this?
It was $125, I think, per month for 3 months, and then up to $250.
So it's $125 a month. could be up to 250. I just had last week ChatGPT tell me I had to delete some things because I'd pay like $200 a month. So it's like at some point you hit a limit of all the things that you're uploading and having it sift through for context. It's got me thinking about this question of where is the bottleneck? I think it's easy to take a look at this and say, holy crap, it's changing so quickly. Everybody's jobs are done. We're done. But in order for that to happen, there needs to be enough power to run the models, do the compute. And I'm not sure that we're even close to being able to do that. Especially, I mean, Google's charging $150 a month. I'm sure OpenAI's at some point is going to release an agent and it's going to be probably $60,000 a year, which is still cheaper than a full-time employee. But at some point, there's going to be where we hit cap. Am I thinking about it wrong, or is that a thing?
Yeah. So it's actually, I would say less. So yes, no. So right now there's a massive infrastructure built
Okay.
up. Everybody's investing like these big, the big country investments are going into infrastructure. Data centers need to be built out. Already you're seeing improvements from NVIDIA, and there was a whole, stock dropped a whole bunch about a month ago or 2 months ago, because people thought that it was actually, you needed less data. DeepSeek, this was the big deal of you needed less compute. So there's a truth to both sides of that. Yes, there's going to be a capacity issue, but no, there's also improvements and technological advancement. So I think both things are true. It's going to get much more efficient. And as we saw with, was it Moore's law, that, there's a doubling of capacity or whatever every couple of years, that it's going to be, I think, a similar thing maybe with compute. I don't know if that's the truth or not, but I think the bigger bottleneck for the United States is a bigger issue. The real bottleneck is on the energy side. And this is where I actually think businesses have an opportunity. So let me just show you a terrifying.
I guess that's
Yeah, go ahead.
I guess that's what I meant is you've got to have the compute power and you can build out all the infrastructure that you want. Holy crap. I'm going to just shut up. What are we looking at here?
Okay, so this is the total electricity generation in the United States versus China. So the US, so let me just pull off China here for a second, has barely been improving since the 90s, over 35 years.
Okay.
We've only improved.
The x-axis are years and the y-axis is what?
Yeah,
Power capacity?
Yeah, in terawatt hours.
Terawatt hours. Okay.
Yeah, so we've only gone from slightly under 3,000 terawatt hours to now just above 4,000 terawatt hours over 30 years. And so we have not been adding to any of our energy needs and demands. And the energy required for AI is so much bigger. And right now our lunch is just getting eaten by China.
Holy crap. Yeah, if you can't see this graph, where do they intersect? What year is that?
That was 2010. So
okay, so 2010, China is equaling the amount of electricity generated as the United States. And just ever since then, I can't see the scale on the graph, but is it double? Are they double what we produce right now?
More than double. So they're up at 10,000 terawatt hours, and we're again above 4,000. So
once you scale out, it looks like we're a flat line and they're just going parabolic almost.
Exactly. So it's pretty terrifying, and something where we really need to unlock our energy. And it's not like we don't have access to energy. So one big deal was on Friday, Trump just announced an executive order, not to get into politics, but to unleash nuclear energy. So I think that's a big deal. But again, that's not enough. And you hear Elon Musk discuss that we have enough solar power, that the sun has enough power to basically power us all. But the problem, of course, is batteries. But again, maybe he'll go down that path and solve that. And I know a bunch of people sort of working on that problem. So hopefully that'll get solved.
What I was saying before you pulled this graph up is that's the point, is we can build all the data centers, we can build all the infrastructure that we want. If we don't have the power capacity to generate what the demand is going to be, then none of that really matters. Unless we decide we want to have rolling blackouts, and we're like, oh, it's compute time. Everyone shut off your computer. Everyone at home, retail, shut that off. We gotta let Microsoft get their power for the day. So I was thinking about this over the weekend. And do you know Hector Resendez?
Yeah.
Okay. So he has a trade school online. And I was thinking people like him, I think, are going to just crush it over the next 10 years. Because what do you need in order to build out power stations, to build out infrastructure, to build out data centers, and also to implement the data generate, or not the data, but the power generation necessary to power everything, you need tradesmen, you need electricians, you need people who understand how to actually do this stuff. So I think the trades actually are probably going to see an even bigger explosion. I wouldn't be surprised if they start passing legislation to fund trade schools, trade unions, like I think there's going to be a renaissance in trade.
So this morning, Trump also just announced that he's going to pull $3 billion from Harvard to send to the trades. So
Did he really?
Yes. Yeah. So that
Oh my gosh.
So absolutely. And I mean, you already see that there's already investment happening with even with the CHIPS Act, which, I don't know if you want to talk about that, but they did allocate to semiconductor training and a bunch of other sort of sectors. But I absolutely agree that the trades are, we have labor shortages. We need people. I know a ton of people in this space. I know you do too, that, they need to find people. And right now, college degrees, the things people have been trained for, half of it's not useful and the other half is getting automated with AI. So it's like the only place until the robots come is going to be the trades. And to build all that stuff, we need it.
I think it'll be interesting to see in the same way that many towns were created around oil, where it's like, oh, this town has a big mining operation and they were just built like Elko, Nevada. Nobody freaking lives in Elko, Nevada, but the reason they live there is probably because they had some mining operation 100 years ago. I would bet there's probably going to be whole industries that come up with just servicing the transition or the creation of the power generation, right? It's like, so you're like, well, I'm just an entrepreneur. I own a restaurant. Or like, okay, well, maybe you live in a place or you could move to a place that's going to be the data center of the future or the power generate. Maybe they're building a nuclear facility because now they have these anyways, there's a bunch of technology around that. So I think you're right. I think there are some interesting things you can just start thinking about as an entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
How do I take advantage of that, even if I just stay in my same lane?
Absolutely. Like data centers, they need cleaning. They need people to clean, specialized cleaning that's premium. HVAC services are specialized. The cooling issues are a big deal. Security systems, a lot of these places are going to be targets for, whatever. So, there's a bunch of secondary effects that all these investments are going to be made. And so, yeah.
You said it when we first started, is that like, it could be a counterculture investment thesis. It's like, oh, the technology is going this way. I'm going to invest the total opposite way. Everything you just said is a services business that's done by a human.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right, that's a very interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be a long time before the robots take over, is my personal opinion. Not because the robots won't be able to do it. I think that mentally it's going to be really hard for people to grasp that and accept it. But that's my own personal opinion. So what a great week. Action packed. This was awesome. Thank you.
We didn't even get to Anthropic, which is
I know.
So maybe next week we'll do it.
Give us a teaser. What's going on with Anthropic?
Real quick, Anthropic dropped a bunch of exciting stuff, very clear sort of their path. But again, they're just making tools accessible to the average user. And so again, we sort of mentioned and teased Model Context Protocol, which at some point we will demo, but I'll be doing it in our school community, some deep dives on that because I've been obsessing over it. And I think just from a workflow that's not AI automation and it's not AI agents, it's just really easy to set up and use. It unlocks a lot. It's like the potential of what custom GPT actions have. It's actually very real and easy and accessible.
All right. So this is the part in the show where you need to like and subscribe so that you don't miss next week's episode where Liz actually shows us what this is and walks us through how to use it. Cool. Liz, this was awesome. Have a good weekend. We'll talk soon. All right. Hopefully you liked that episode. And if you've made it this far, you're either really committed or you're stuck doing yard work and you can't actually skip on your phone. So while I have you, the show is growing, but I have a favor to ask of you. Will you please help me grow the show? I want to reach more people. There's a couple things that you can do. Like and subscribe is the simplest thing. Obviously, you want to get notifications for when the next episode is coming out. But if you go the next step, will you leave me a review? 5-star on Spotify or Apple. What that does is it tells the algorithm that, oh, hey, this is a high value podcast because more people are leaving reviews for it. And it then pushes it out to more people. So that's why when people are like, will you like and subscribe and put a 5-star rating? It's not just to make themselves feel better. It's actually to get more exposure for the show. So if you do that for me, I would greatly appreciate it. And I'll see you next time.